Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. Do you remember when you walked among men? Jesus, you know, if you're looking below, it's worse now than then. Cheating and stealing, violence and crime. So for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Because yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a I'm only human. I'm just a woman. Help me believe what I could be and all that I am. Show me the stairway I have to climb. Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. Do you remember when you walked among men? Jesus, you know, if you're looking below, it's worse now than then. Cheating and stealing, violence and crime. So for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do
greetings from the Inside Studios, and you are watching The Virtuous Woman. As you already know, this is a program where we talk about issues of life concerning women. It can be parenting, pregnancy, our health as a whole, our children, everything that concerns woman, a woman, we talk about in this program. And it is all with a scope that we will better our lives. We will unlearn and relearn to better our lives for the future. Today we are talking about communication. And it's going to be communication with our children. Not only communicating, but also communicating effectively. Does communication between a child and a parent or a guardian is understood the same way by the child and the parent? I believe parents communicate one thing, but children also understand one thing. So we want to understand, how do we communicate to children, and how effectively can we communicate for them to understand us better? If you are watching me for the very first time, I bring you greetings. This is the Inside Studios, and as I have said, it is a program where we talk about issues of life concerning women. It is a great opportunity for us to get ourselves informed so that we will do better as parents. And so if you are watching, please don't be selfish at all. Share this information with somebody, because I believe it will be of a great help, especially because of the one who is going to throw more light and insight on it. She is no other person than a woman I have known. She's a mother to me, she's a teacher to me, she is a mentor to me. When I tell her that, she always say, if somebody tells me that, then it makes me to be careful of everything that I do. One of the words she always say is that the one who does not learn is equally the same as somebody who is not able to read and write. So if you know how to read and write and you don't learn, you are the same as the one who does not know how to read and write. She is the first lady of the Christ Peace and Love Ministries International, Italy, the Toscana Assembly. She is a teacher by profession, a minister of the word. You can hear her on the United Oneness Radio every Monday at 8 p.m. and she gives insights on lots of topics that is of a benefit to all Christians. And so it's another way to let you know that if you want to hear from her more, you can tune in. You go to her Facebook, you will find her teaching on the United Oneness Radio at 8 p.m. Mondays. Yes, she is the author of the book 9 Lessons, 10 Lessons from Eve. 10 Lessons from Eve. And that book has been of a blessing to us, especially women. I'm talking about no other person than my mom, Mommy Grace, of the First Lady, Lady Mrs. Grace Mamledas. Mommy, you are very, very much welcome to the Inside Studios and to the Virtuous Woman.
Thank you so much. It's such a blessing to be here again. I'm excited.
We are also excited to have you here. The last time Mommy was here, she has been on this program countless times, but the last time she was here, she spoke to us about temperament. Children, especially temperament. For us to know that the temperament is not something that somebody gives to you or you learn, but you are born with it. If you have not gone through that video, you can find it on our page. It will be of a blessing to you. You will learn so much as we have also learned. Mommy, today we are looking at communication. We want to know how to communicate to our children and be very, very effective in our communication. We want to know what we are doing right and what we are not doing right. And so, Mommy, can you please take us through communication between children and their parents or guardians?
Thank you so much. And it's an honor and a YouTube or Facebook, we say you are welcome to join the discussion. And today we want you to participate. As we go on, we would like you to ask your questions if you have any, or if you have any contributions, we will so much appreciate it. Because I believe that almost everybody deals with children, whether as a parent, a teacher, caregiver, Sunday school teacher, in any capacity, we deal with children, and so it's a subject that concerns us all. Amen.
Amen.
So we are looking at effective communication between parents and children. Effective communication between parents and children. And let me quickly lay a foundation by saying that babies cannot talk, but they certainly communicate. Babies cannot talk, but they certainly communicate. So this should give you an idea that when it comes to communication, talking or speaking is just an aspect of it. It's a whole lot that goes into the soup pot. But speaking or talking is just a little aspect of communication. And so as we go into the discussion, we shall look at all the things that come together to make communication. And I must also say that communication is a very, very broad issue, but we will try and limit ourselves as much as we can to the children, the parents, and of course the teachers and then the caregivers. So let's quickly define what communication really is, and then we look at what effective communication is. And then we come to the dynamics of communicating between parents and children. I believe there are so many questions on people's minds, and we'll try as much as possible to cover those areas where you may have concerns. So what is communication? According to the Oxford Dictionary, communication is the imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, by writing, or using some other medium. So when you are communicating, you are imparting information or you are exchanging information, and you are doing that by speaking or by writing or by using some other medium. Sometimes the person is not talking, the person is not writing, but just the way they have positioned their body posture, their facial expression, their gestures. Sometimes we use symbols, pictures. You look at a picture and it is telling a complete story. There are no sounds attached to it, no writings on it, but you look at the image and you can understand what the artist behind the idea is trying to communicate. And so when we talk of communication, it can be by writing, by speaking, or other forms. And so when we talk of effective communication, we are trying to say that, let's take the word effective, for example. When we say something is effective, it means that it is successful or it is able to produce the intended results. It is able to produce the intended result. So you are doing something and you want the thing to give you an outcome, to give you a result. So if you are able to get that result, then whatever you put in was effective because the intended result was delivered to you. So in communication as well, when we talk of effective communication, we are not just talking about imparting information, exchanging information, but we are talking about being able to minimize potential misunderstanding that may occur in that communication, and being able to overcome any barriers that will occur in the process of communication. If you are able to minimize the misunderstanding between you and the person you are communicating with, and you are also able to break down any barriers that will hinder the flow of communication, then we say that you are an effective communicator. So when we are talking about effective communication between parents and children, well, all that we are trying to do is, okay, you talk to your parents, you talk to your children, you communicate every time. But are there any barriers that probably come in between you and your children when we are here to help us all to be able to minimize those misunderstandings and to be able to bring down those barriers when we are communicating with our children. Communication is a process. Communication is a process, and we know that for every process, we move from one step to another, one stage to another, until we get to the final stage. So in communication, we have the sender, the person who is sending out the information. And we have the person who is receiving the information, who is the recipient. So I am talking at the moment. I am the sender. I am the one giving out the information. And the audience listening to me, they are the recipients. Anybody who is receiving what I am giving now is the recipient. So when I am talking, I am doing what we call encoding. I am trying to put words together. I am trying to express some ideas. I am trying to convey a message to the person on the other end. So before I bring out the words I am speaking now, I should be able to think about what I am going to say, that is the encoding, and put it in appropriate words to make my recipients able to understand me. So the process involves encoding. So how I put my message together into words if I'm speaking or writing. And then the channel through which I am passing the message. Now you are talking to me, I'm talking to you, you can see me, I can see you. So the channel can be face to face, or it can be over the phone, or it can be through an email, or writing a letter, or using sign language. That is the channel. Then when I use that channel to send the message that I have encoded, the person on the other side, the next step of the communication process is what we call the decoding. That person is going to break down what I have sent to them. It's like somebody sending you a letter in an envelope. The envelope is sealed, so you need to open the envelope and begin to read the letter. So that stage is the decoding stage. And the last stage of the communication process is what we call feedback. So in communication, there are 4 stages coming together in the process. The first stage is the encoding. The second stage is the channel. The third stage is the decoding. And the fourth stage is the feedback. So a mother talking to the child, saying, Kofi, come here. The mother has sent out the message that has been encoded, which is Kofi, come here. And the channel is spoken language. It should use sounds. So Kofi now perceives the sounds in his ears. And in his mind, he begins to think about what mommy has said. Does it make sense? What is the next thing I have to do? Oh no, so I understand that mommy wants me to move from where I am to where she is. So if Kofi is able to move from where he is to mommy's side, then mommy has gotten the intended result, what she was looking for. And Kofi has also been able to give mommy the feedback correctly as she expected. So now that communication process has ended successfully. So in communication, sometimes you can get to stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and you not get to stage 4 because the feedback you were expecting did not come. It means that there is a barrier, there is a hindrance in that communication process. So basically, this is what we are here to do this afternoon, and to also equip ourselves with some knowledge in the communication process. Maybe I've been having conflict with my children because of the way I communicate with them. So how best can I begin to modify the way I communicate with my children? How best can I understand them so that going forward, I am able to communicate better with my children, with my students, if I am a teacher, with anybody under my care who is a minor. So that's what we are going to do.
Wow, wow. We have just begun. I said my mommy is a teacher, and she's a teacher most importantly, of the word. And so I urge you, if you have not grabbed your tablet to make a note or taken your paper and your pen, I don't know what you are doing. Here we take lots of nuggets, lots of information. And so I urge you, please grab a paper and write something down. I believe we are going to learn a lot. I'm writing down what I am going to use effectively and to correct myself where I'm not doing well. If you are just joining me, this is the Inside Studios and you are on the Virtuous Woman. We are talking about communication, effective communication between the parent and the child. Not only the parent, as a mommy has said, if you are a teacher, you are a guardian, you have in every area of your life, there is a channel between you and a child. And so we are all supposed to learn this. Mommy, thank you so much. You can go on.
Okay then. So now let's look at the types of communication. And for the purpose of this discussion, we are trying to simplify things as much as we can. Like I said, communication is a very complex and a broad, topic. And so we will try to minimize and simplify it as much as possible. So when you are communicating, you can either be doing verbal communication, as I am doing now, and the verbal communication comes from the word verbs. So we are using sounds, we are using face-to-face, like you see me, I see you. We are talking over the phone, Facebook, YouTube, social media, on the radio, on the television. That is verbal. You hear the sounds in your ears. That is verbal. The non-verbal, which is very, very important, which constitutes about 60 to 70% of all communication, is the facial expressions. Sometimes my mouth is saying one thing and my face is saying another thing. So if you are a very good communicator, you are not just listening to me, but you're also reading my facial expressions, my gestures, to know whether I really mean what I am saying, or whether my body disposition, my demeanor goes in line with what I am saying. So we have the facial expressions and we have the gestures. As I am talking, I am using my hands a lot. If you are communicating with someone and the person is like this, they have already communicated that they don't have time for you. You are wasting their time. They are not interested in what you are saying. So gestures play a major role in communication. Our posture also talks a lot when we are communicating. Whether I am sitting, sleeping, standing, kneeling, all these body postures also form part of the communication. My tone, the tone I am using to talk matters. It's not just the words I am saying, but how I am sounding the words. Stop it! I have just rebuked a child because of my tone. The child can understand that. Stop it that I said. I am not playing with them. So your tone is very, very important. Your dressing. I always tell people, you are addressed according to how you dress. You are addressed according to how you dress. Although we are dealing with children, in fact, you are talking to that child in your home, that child in your school every day, but the child is doing more than listening to you. The way you dress can teach the child a lot about life. So it is really, really important. Dressing also communicates. Our actions, when you are not talking to the child, but you are doing your own thing out there, the child is so watching you. So your actions are always communicating to your children as well. And let me say this, quite interesting. Smell, scent also communicates. That is why, excuse me, when you go into the washroom and the scent is not really nice, you don't want to stay there. Immediately, a child who is now learning to speak, when you put them in a place where the scent is not very friendly, it's not very nice, they change their face. If you read their expression, you can tell that the child is not comfortable. So smell, scent also communicates. So when we talk of communication, the non-verbal communication plays a major, major, major role. The third type is the graphic. The graphics or the visuals, the postures that we see in town, emojis on our phone, the heart that is beating, all those faces that are there, they are not just there, they are there to communicate. So sometimes you don't have the words to express what you want to say, what you feel. An emoji there is going to help you. It is a form of communication. So basically we have the verbal, the non-verbal, and the visual communication.
Wow. Let me, mommy, let's pause a bit so that let's go to Facebook. I've seen lots of our family members writing to us. The Virtuous Woman family members are writing. I believe they are also learning so much. So let's go and see what they are saying. Mr. Osikeni George Senior says effective communication, effective parenting. Yeah, that is the scope. We want to be effective as parents. We want to be effective. We want to be intentional about everything that concerns our children. And so that is why we are called for this day, this session, so that we will learn. Wow. King Joshua King, our brother Joshua King is saying very, very important. Yes, it is very important. Mr. Osikeni says, yes, my sister, it is important. Clara King, hello, Mrs. Clara King says, nice one there. Mr. Osikeni says, yes, my brother. We have our mommy Oba Gifty watching, our lady Gifty AJ. This afternoon I was telling her, you are my celebrity family. And she said, I'm waiting to come and watch you this afternoon. I loved your session you did with mommy on the temperament, and I hope I always make it for this afternoon. Thank you so much for making time with us. We have our mommy Janet Kunidu watching, our sister Araba right all the way from the US watching us. Mr. Osikeni says, babies do not talk but communicate all the time. Yes. Even in the womb, they communicate, they hear what you say. So when maybe you drink some chilled something on them, you can hear them kick you. So babies also communicate. They are telling you they are right there. So be careful of what you are putting on them. Mommy, our lady Gifty AJ giving us some love and a special greetings to mommy. Daddy is writing to you. He says, more grace, my baby. Yeah. More grace, my baby. Daddy, I love to you also. Mr. Osikeni says, more. Oh, okay. He's he's replying to Daddy. He says again, encoding and decoding of communication. Yes, and then he said feedback, and then he has lined up all the channels or the process mommy just talked about, that we encode the word, the channel, decoding, and then the feedback. If you want your communication to be effective, it must pass through these 4 processes. So if there is a breakage, you arrive at decoding and it stops, then it means you have not effectively communicated. We have our mommy Margaret Tando watching. Mommy, thanks for being with us. Our lady Ruth is also watching. Mr. Osikeni says verbal communication, verbs. Yes, it is derived from the word verb. Our mommy Tando says, blessings, my darlings. Blessings to you also, mommy. Mr. Osikeni says non-verbal communication, the facial expression. That one is true. I always remember right from Ghana, when you are in the company of your friends and your auntie is passing by and she just looked at you with one eye. She does not need to talk to you. You already understand. And so if you pretend you didn't hear what, or you didn't understand what signal she's giving you, you will meet her home. That is one of the communication methods that we need to train our children with, and it is very, very important and effective. So Osikeni say, Lady Clara King says, very true. Yes, what mommy said is so much true. So Osikeni said, gestures play a major role in communication. And if you are Italian, it is more, because they use more gestures. Yes. So Osikeni says again, the tone. We are dressed according to how we dress. Yes. If you are, for example, going for an interview, the way you dress also counts. It shows, it gives you some marks if that job will given to you or not. And the way you even dress your children, it says a lot about them. So everything counts. Martandos Gifty, Lady Gifty says 100%. Yes, 100%. Martando says the gesture. It is very true. So Sikeni also says smells also communicates. Of course, I don't want to make examples. Smells also communicates. When you sometimes when you hear the smells of some people, it can communicate to you where they are coming from. It can communicate to you where they are coming from. It said you are so much on point, man. That is coming from Clara King. We have Akintola Rosalind. Oh, okay. Yes, she says more grace, man. That is to our mommy. Yes. Our brother Joshua King is already giving us a question here. Mommy, can I go on or we?
Yes, please.
Okay. He says, but can there be any limit in communication with parents and children? Can there be any limit in communication with children and parents?
The answer is yes and no. So let's take the yes first.
Okay.
The yes is that as a parent, you set boundaries in communicating with your children. And the boundary is definitely about how old the child is, how much information they can process, their cognitive development. A 5-year-old child is not as wise as a 15-year-old. And so there are things that the 5-year-old may not understand. So just by their age limit and their cognitive development, there is a limit to how far your communication can go, and that is why I say yes. And no, because the moment your child says something or expresses an idea to you, they are curious and they want to know more. And the best way to help your child develop cognitively and turn out an intelligent child is to engage them. So your child doesn't ask a question and you shut them up, you brush it off and say, we in Peninsula, you are behaving like an adult. It's better for a child to behave like an adult than to behave like a child below his or her age. I always tell people, growing up, when people hear me talk, they say, we in Peninsula. And I say, it's a compliment. I want to be associated with the old and wise rather than the young.
Yeah.
So when your child begins to ask questions, you don't limit the child. So long as that idea has cropped in, they want to know more. And one best way for a child to learn and turn out a better individual is the ability to satisfy their curiosity, engage their imagination. So because of their age, there are things their minds cannot process. And when even you communicate with them, they cannot process it at that age. And no, because the moment the child brings it up, there is nothing wrong with you, the parents engaging them. Yes.
Wow. Mommy, your friend here, the last one, just when I was dressing up to come for the video, she just looked at me and she said, Mommy, are you ready to go for your video? And I said, yes. Are you praying for me? Then she said, no, I'm praying for Daddy. And I said, I am the one going for the video, so why don't you pray for me? Then she began praying. The prayers were all around, not about me, but she said she was praying. And so I know it is very, very important. There is a limit. We don't need to shut them, but to their level, however they understand it, it is okay. Wow. Wow. Mommy, you can go on.
All right, so I cannot come here and talk about effective communication without going into the scriptures. So let's take our scripture quickly and then we link it to what we have here. Colossians chapter 4 verse 6. Colossians chapter 4 verse 6. There are so many things that the word of God say about the way we talk, the way we communicate. The Bible is not silent on it. But going through some scriptures, I found this particular one interesting. And I want us to look at it and then apply it to what we are discussing. Colossians chapter 4 verse 6. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. take it again. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. Every man, young and old, every man, male and female, every man, a boss and a subordinate, every man, black, green, yellow, blue, African, European, every man, every man. But for the scripture to say that we should let our speech be seasoned with, first of all, he said with grace. Let your speech be always with grace. The word grace, it's my name, so I have a lot to do with it. The word grace is what you would call elegance, or in today's language, they will say class. So God is actually telling you and I that in our communication, you should be a bit classy. Meaning you don't just say anything because it has come to mind, because you want to say it, but you take time to process it. And he said you should season it with salt, just like a woman is seasoning meat, putting all the spices in there to make sure that the meat is tasting good. The same way, God is expecting us to season whatever we are communicating, so that we may know how we ought to answer every man. The way you talk to your boss will not be the same way you talk to your colleague. The way you talk to your child will not be the same way you talk to your mate. So in dealing with children, God is expecting us that we will add some grace, some class, some knowledge, some wisdom, some understanding, because they are children. And then we should also weigh what we are going to tell them, because they are going to decode, they are going to process it. Sometimes what you tell your child can shape their life for the rest of their lives. It can give them a perception about who they are, and if it doesn't take counseling and the grace of God, a child will grow believing what a mother has said, but probably that may not be who they are. So we need that knowledge to be able to season our communication with the salt that God is asking us to do. And this is why we are here this afternoon. We are seasoning the communication. So now this takes me to my next step. Who is an effective communicator? We want parents, we want teachers, we want guardians, nannies, caregivers who are effective communicators. So when we talk of an effective communicator, who is this person? What makes him or her stand out? An effective communicator, number one, is a person that understands their audience. I always tell people, I am a graduate of English, linguistics, and psychology. I have studied English for 4 years. When I am communicating, I don't like using big words, except I don't find another word that is simpler. The reason is that there is no point. Using big words doesn't mean you know English. No. What really is the point where you are speaking big grammar and the people cannot decode what you are saying, and they are not giving you the feedback that you want? So an effective communicator, first of all, must understand their audience. And so here, as a parent, you must understand your children. Understanding your children has got nothing to do with the food that they like, the clothes that they want to wear, their snacks, their favorite sleeping position. No, that's not what we are talking about. How old is my child? How much information can my child process at his or her age? That is the understanding your child. You have been a child before. I will go into all those areas. The child has not been an adult before. So it is always easier for a parent to go into the child's world because that parent has been there before. You have been a child before. So it is very easy to go back there and behave like them so you can better communicate. And that is what it means by understanding your audience. Your child says, "Mommy, I need a color pencil." Your child doesn't understand that you are behind your bills and you have debts to pay and there's no food in the house. They don't understand, and you shouldn't expect them to understand. You should rather understand them, why they are asking for that color pencil, what they are going to use it for, and meet them in their world and begin to communicate. Oh, I'll buy you the color pencil. Just give mommy some little time, okay? Mommy will definitely buy it. And when you make promises, keep them. When you make promises, keep them. So it is always better to ask for time rather than to promise and not fulfill. Ask them to give you time and then make sure you deliver on your promise. Yes. Number 2, an effective communicator chooses appropriate communication channel. So if I'm talking to my child cannot read at 2. So I will not write a text message for my child. It doesn't make sense. I would rather use verbal communication, face-to-face communication to communicate with my child. That is the channel that you need to use. Sometimes we teachers, especially when we are dealing with the preschoolers, that is the 0 to the 6 years thereabout, you have to be able to know that your channel must involve a lot of images, a lot of visuals, a lot of graphics, because though you are explaining the concept, they want to see it at that age. When they see it, they can relate better. And you go a step further with your channel to demonstrate. And parents also, one of your biggest channel of communication is demonstration. Demonstrate what you want the child to do. Demonstrate it, model it. I've said it several times. Children learn by observing, by imitation. So as you do that, they are easier, you make things easier for them to understand. Who is an effective communicator? An effective communicator encodes, they send the message to reduce misunderstanding by the recipient. There is no point using idiomatic expressions and proverbs, what you call kasapuma, in Chi, to talk to your young child. They won't really get you. They won't really get you. If you tell your child, once you have not explained that to that child, it will not make sense to them. So before you use any encoded message, any encoding, make sure the child already knows it, they understand it before you use them, so that you reduce misunderstanding. Now, an effective communicator also seeks feedback from the recipient. Sometimes the people I teach see me as a strict teacher. The strictness in me is that until I get the feedback I want from you, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to be on your head. So the feedback I am looking for has been given me. And sometimes you don't have to do that by making it unpleasant or painful to the child. No. You engage them. You use a lot of repetition. Because I teach English to people who don't speak English, one of my effective tools as a teacher is repetition. As you repeat, it naturally imprints in their minds and they are able to produce it for you. The same way, don't say, why must I say the same thing over and over? It's because they are children and they cannot get it at once. So repetition must be part of your communication as parents. So please, don't be tired of repeating the same thing. It is part of the process because they are children.
Yeah, Mommy, I think one of the things that we also have to put into consideration is the type of child that you have. Because if you have two, there are differences in them. One may be able to absorb faster. Or maybe you have gone through a process with one and you think it was so much easier, but the second one is so much difficult as compared to the first one. So it also depends on the kind of child you have.
So
or maybe I have to ask, is there a difference in communicating when it comes to the child that you have?
That is so correct. That is so correct. We are children whose chronological age, the chronological age is how many years they have spent on earth. Their chronological age is lower, but their cognitive or their psychological age is very high. So know your child and know how much they can take, especially if you're a teacher. You are likely to have all of the different temperaments and different types of learners in your class. Some are slow, some are fast, some are slow to warm up and all of that. Some, the activities you give them or whatever you give them is always not enough. They want more because they have a higher IQ. They are very smart. And so with children like that, you give them extra. And then the ones who are slow, you take your time. The same goes with the parents. You know your children and you must deal with each child uniquely. And that's why the knowledge is really, really important. You cannot say that this is my style of parenting and so I am going to use it to apply to all my children. It may not work for every child. Know the child and know what works better for that child. Some children, looking at their face, they get the message. You don't need to use a word. They just understand, like you cited with your auntie's example. Some of them, you have to hammer it, and sometimes you have to follow with action. It is still okay. Give them the time, they will learn. And that is why you need the patience to deal with them. You need it.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mommy. You can go on.
All right. So we are looking at who is an effective communicator. An effective communicator corrects any misunderstanding or confusion as soon as possible. You said something and the child didn't get you well. So they decoded it differently and they are beginning to act in a way that is not the feedback you are expecting. Don't get angry with the child. Probably they didn't decode your message well. So you take your time to repeat, to encode, and if possible, you change the tone, you change the way you sent the message the first time and see if they get it. This is very, very common to us teachers. You give an instruction and suddenly they are doing something else. You immediately understand that there is a misunderstanding in the communication process, so you need to correct it. And you have to do that as soon as possible. You don't say, oh, I just said it, they should get what I said. Why didn't they get me? You don't get frustrated, you don't get angry, but you change the style and then you get the desired result. And so my next point is going to be what parents must consider in communicating with their children. What parents must consider in communicating with their children. Now, communication between children and parents is a two-way affair. It's a dual carriage. You see the roads in Africa. One is going and one is coming. It's a double lane. Yes. So it is not a one-way affair. It is not only about what the parent is saying. If it is communication, then there are two or more parties involved. And so when you give a message, you are looking for a feedback. And since you are looking for a feedback, you must consider your recipient, the person that you are sending the message to. So parents, fathers, moms, it is not always about you. Teachers, it is not always about you. So it is about both you and the child. And try to go into their world and understand them. Parents and teachers and guardians must listen to their children carefully. To be a good communicator, an effective communicator, you must be a good listener, an active listener. Who is an active listener? The person that is showing interest in what whoever is talking to them is saying. They are nodding or giving some responses. They are asking questions for clarification, and their body posture, their facial expression is actually engaging their speaker. So when your child is talking to you, I cited example in my notes. Daddy has just come back from work. There's a football match between Man U and give me some of the teams. I don't know the teams. And Chelsea. But the teams that is a Man U fan, and so he is so glued to the TV. And then his 2-year-old comes and is trying to engage daddy, wants to talk to daddy. 99% of the fathers will shock the child, will scold them, will tell them not to disturb them. They are very busy, they want to watch. But that doesn't make you an effective communicator as a parent. What you can do is just take that child, place him on your lap, depending on the age of your child. I cited a 2-year-old. Yes, talk to daddy. What is it? You engage the child for just a few minutes. They may not have anything serious to spend the whole football match time with you. Just giving them that little attention. Sometimes a hug is all they need. So be an effective listener. Don't be shoving them off. Because sometimes your child is complaining, they are in danger. But because you are not an effective listener, before you know why the child wanted to talk to you, it is too late. It is always too late. So we need to be very careful. Very, very careful, especially when it comes to child abuse. There is this uncle, there is this friend, there is this family member. Everybody trusts them, but they are the people abusing these children. And the child has been trying very hard to talk to mommy, but mommy is never ready to listen. Anytime that person comes around, read your child's body language, read their facial expression. Anytime the person is around, they want to cling to you, hold your dress, they want to follow you wherever you are going. It is a communication. But because you are not an observant parent, you are not an active listener, we don't listen with just our ears. Observe your children. They are communicating. Because of fear, they cannot put it in words. And if you keep ignoring them, by the time you realize what's going on, it's always too late. And that's why this is really, really important. Really, really, really important. I have several examples in my experience as a teacher. I read my students, I read them, I really read them. So there was this morning a boy came to school. I saw his face, he wasn't looking good. It's like somebody who has cried for about hours. So I went closer to the boy and I realized there was this lump on his forehead. Immediately I called him out and said, "What is this? What happened?" The boy was afraid to talk, but I insisted, "Talk to me, I'm your teacher, you can trust me. What is the problem? How did this thing get here? It's quite fresh." Long story short, the mother had beaten him that morning and hit that place with a stone. Yes.
Wow.
And the swelling, and I could imagine the pain that child was going through, about a 6-year-old boy. That child was going through. Immediately, I walked the child to my headmaster's office, and the mother was called, the police was invited. The woman was crying back. She was actually abusing the child at home. We were not planning to arrest the woman, but we wanted to teach her a lesson. And from that day, the boy never came to school looking sad again. So sometimes it's maybe the parents themselves abusing their children at home. And as a teacher, as a youth leader, as a Sunday school teacher, you should be able to help the child because the abuse is coming from home. So it's not just about the parents. Sometimes the child is being abused in the school. And it takes a parent who is observant, who is an active listener, to be able to detect. God help us.
God help us.
God help us. God help us. There is so much to talk about, but let me just focus on what the parents are expected to do. So you want to communicate, consider the age of your child. Like our host was saying, right from the womb, the child can perceive sound, they can perceive smell. Sometimes the food you eat, the smell of it is not very pleasant to the child. You begin to throw up and you think, oh, it's part of pregnancy. When you are pregnant, you throw up. But these are all ways of communication. Sometimes you are pregnant, you go to a place where there is so much noise and you don't feel fine. You see that your baby is agitated and kicking anyhow, not the normal kicking. But you realize that no, this child is not comfortable. You have to leave the place. So right from the womb, they are able to perceive. And so at every stage of your child's life, you should know that I am handling an infant, a toddler, a preschooler, an early child, a middle child, a puberty child or adolescent. I'm handling a young adult. So how do I communicate with these children at these various levels? And I've always said that when your children are growing, grow with them. I repeat, when your children are growing, grow with them. There is so much conflict between parents and their adolescent children or their young adults because they still consider them as infants. That baby who was sucking your breast 20 years ago is now 20 years old. Please, mom. Please, daddy. Acknowledge that they have also grown, they have also matured. And so the way you communicate with them must tally with their maturity, must tally with their age. You don't go into your teenager's room without knocking because you pay the rent. It's disrespectful. Right from the time they start talking, if you want them to cultivate the habit of courtesy, being very civil, being very respectful, being very educated in their behavior, model it for them. Knock on their door. Good morning, Miss Roberta. Good morning, Mr. Luca. Just address them with those things and see how they turn out. How are you today? Mommy wants to check on you. By the time you know it, the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they are knocking on your door. Good morning, mommy. Good morning, daddy. I want to check on you because you started doing it. And they are also repeating. Use the words you want them to use. You don't shout at your child and you expect them to talk to you, please, mommy. Start by saying please to them. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I stepped on your toe. Mommy is sorry. Please forgive mommy. Mommy, no problem. You see that they'll even come and hug you and say, Mommy, no problem, I'm fine, don't worry. You have taught them how to apologize.
It's rather unfortunate, Mommy, that most of African children complain about their parents. Our parents don't say sorry to us when they go wrong. And so I don't also see the need for me to say sorry. And it's very, very unfortunate on our part as parents that we can't simply see the reason why we should say sorry to our words. I believe we are all learning. Gone are the days. We tend to say that we know better, and so let's do what is better. That will affect positively we and our children. Wow. Sometimes with your grandchildren I have here, I was once seated and then the younger one asked me, Mommy, tutto bene? Like, is everything okay? Then I tend to look at her like, why is she asking? Like, but I remember, okay, it is because I always ask her, is everything okay? That is why she's also repeating the same. So it is also very, very important that we model what we want them to do. That will make it
and
easier.
apart from that, if you remember that day clearly, probably your expression wasn't really nice to them. Probably you were lost in your thoughts. You were not even
I think
aware.
I was sleeping also. I was in the couch, like as if I was sleeping, and she wanted to know if everything is okay. That is why you are sleeping.
You see,
Because to them you don't have to
asking
sleep.
questions in her mind. This time that mommy is sleeping, is she ill? What's wrong with her? Is everything okay with her? So the child is communicating all the time. But some mothers will say, go and play, don't come and disturb me, I want to have my nap. No, this child is showing concern. And the more you repress them, let me quickly chip in this because of time. The more we stop them from bringing out what is in them, more we stop them, we model them into very bad personalities. Very, very bad personalities. And most of these people grow up becoming abusers because they were never allowed to express themselves, whether good or bad. Their feelings were always repressed, and they have grown up with that resentment bottled in them. And they get very aggressive, very bitter, because there is a childhood that has been, the joy of childhood, they were robbed of it. And so anybody that doesn't cross their path well, they abuse the person. And most times, if they are males, they abuse their wives.
Sure. I think it also makes them lose confidence because it shuts them up. So, okay, my view is not needed, so I don't need to say anything.
Exactly. So it's a big deal. It is a big deal. I don't know, probably we would have to take time and look at the various stages of human growth and development and child at every stage. Maybe we'll have to preserve that for another day because we need to go deeper and understand that. For example, when you have an infant is 0 to 1 or 2. An infant is 0 to 1 years or 2. When you have that infant, let's say 0 to 1, at that stage, every communication, though they are not using words, everything they are doing with you and you are doing with them, it's aimed at building two things: trust or mistrust. So the more you are cuddling that baby, breastfeeding the baby, singing for the baby, playing with the baby, you are building in them trust. So if you are not the mother, but you are the one giving care to this infant at that stage, and you keep doing those right things, feeding them at the correct times and all of that, they trust you more. And so they grow up from that infancy, developing what you call trust with people who are very close to them. So even if the mother is not around, they are okay. They know that my caregiver, I can trust them. Even if they are out of sight, they will still come back to me. And they grow up becoming people with trust. Now, if you are not able to take care of that infant at that very stage, and you don't handle them appropriately, you don't communicate correctly, you inculcate in them mistrust. Instead of developing trust, they develop the opposite, which is mistrust. And these people grow up having trust issues. They don't trust anybody around them. And sometimes you cannot blame people for all their behavior, their personality disorders that they exhibit, because there was a problem with communication at a particular stage in their growth. And at every stage, there is an expectation. So when you don't get the right stage and what you are communicating with the child, sometimes we blame the devil, and it is lack of knowledge.
Yeah, very, very true.
Yes. Sometimes we blame the devil, but it is actually lack of knowledge.
Mommy, let me ask this question.
Yes.
As we are talking about the stages and the different types of children that we have, we are talking about encoding, channel, decoding, and feedback. So it means whatever, for us to communicate effectively, we need to go through this 4 process. Talking about verbally, talking to your child, and you can see maybe she gives you the feedback or decodes your words to them, but are not able to verbally talk to you. I know that there are children have different growth process. Some talk very early stage of their life, some also don't. So at what stage do you say, okay, I believe that my baby understands me, but as her age, I'm expecting her to be verbally okay, but she's not progressing as it's supposed to be. At what stage?
Very well. By 2 years, your child should be able to verbalize a lot of things. They should be able to speak and express themselves. Their language should be able to develop. This is a general expectation, but every child is different. We have children who are very slow, and when we take the male child and the female child, the females tend to speak faster and earlier. When you take an average 2-year-old male and an average 2-year-old female, the female may have a lot of vocabulary, is able to express herself clearer than the male. So sometimes maybe there's also a speech dysfunction, or the child has a problem with language development, and so they may need to seek special attention from a specialist. That is also there. But generally, you give the child time. Once the doctor or the specialist has assessed the child and everything is okay with them, all they need is time. One of my nieces was like that. At, I think about 2.5 years old, she still wasn't saying anything. When you call her name, Mommy, how are you? It is saying, have you eaten? Everything was, So my brother became concerned. So my child is going to be down. My child is not going to talk. We said, give her time, just leave her. Once the doctor has said there's nothing wrong with it. Today, when she's chatting with you, classmates were talking. So you need to be patient with your child. And if you clearly see that there is concern, maybe the child is exhibiting some abnormal behavior, you can always talk to your doctor. You can always seek professional help. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Sorry, mommy. Let me take some comments here so that you can
That's
also
fine.
have a breather. Then we continue. I have missed much of the comments, but from here, Mr. Skenin is saying children learn from observing, and then Lady Grace AJ says demonstration. Mr. Skenin says seek for feedback. Yes, feedback is very, very important. Margaretando says we need to come down to their level and understand them. Even Jesus with his glory came down to our level. Yes. Wow. We can never go to this extent without the word of God. Everything that we need as parents, everything that we need as Christians, we have examples and scriptures that will give us encouragement and to back us up. We have Mr. Kenny says, don't get tired of repeating. I believe every teacher or every mother, every parent, every guardian there will have to repeat this after me. Don't get tired. I will not get tired of repeating. Sometimes you just have to you have to pause and breathe so that you don't get angry of repeating yourself, but you still have to repeat yourself to them because they are children. We have Our Lady Mary Ufuriwa says, children these days in Ghana don't read those signs and gestures of our days. I think it's the same here. They will just ask, what are you saying? What are you trying to say? I don't get you. When you are trying to give them a sign.
You haven't taught them.
Okay.
You need to teach them. It doesn't come automatically.
Okay.
You really need to teach them. God gave us his laws. He taught us.
My mommy, I don't remember we were taught. I don't remember we were taught, but you can just
You were taught because your mother didn't teach you that. You know, teaching and learning occurs in many ways. It shouldn't be in a formal setting alone. You get the point?
Yes.
Because in our days, if my mother used that eye and you didn't stop what you were doing, whenever she gets close to you, you are going to get some,
Yes, it's true.
some beating. So next time, she has taught you already. She has complicated. Next time you see the action, you remember the reaction that will come later, and you check yourself. But you are doing it, the child is not responding, and you are after the person is gone or you are out of the public space, you don't do anything about it. So you are not teaching the child.
I remember vividly, a friend came to the house in Ghana, we had a plate of rice and we were eating together. I knew in the house, you don't do that. You don't eat with strangers from the same plate. And a friend and my auntie just passed and looked at me. I stood up, I'm not eating anymore because I know when that scene is over, I know what I will get. That's and right. It is very, very, it's okay. Sometimes when you are in the public, you want to say something to your child so that nobody sees, but they will ask, Koza, what? they just don't get it. But I know, as mommy has said, I think somebody told me, I saw the way you spoke, you didn't speak, but you looked at your daughter and she understood what you were saying. And I said, okay, I didn't even realize I did something. But the person said, she saw what you wanted to me and she quickly corrected what she was doing. And so I believe that, as mommy has said, when we teach them, small, little baby steps, we will get there. We will. Wow. Let's go again. Mary Foriwa says, we pray for more grace. Yes, we pray for more grace. Thank you so much, Our Lady Mary. Our mommy Matando says, when your children are growing, grow with them. That is a good one. Yes, parents, guardians, grow with your children. Don't leave them behind. And Mr. Kenny says, trust and distrust. Martano says, my granddaughter addresses herself, Miss. I can even say, I'm about to say her name. 6-year-old, and she says, I'm Miss, yes, yeah. Miss Sinead, yes. Our Joshua King is saying, God bless you, man. But do you also allow children communicate with others, most especially some strangers who may not wish to communicate with our children, but our children refuses? Okay, I think I get what he's saying. For example, a visitor comes around and you are expecting your child to say something, or they are trying to say something to your child and he or she is refusing. I think
it's rather the other way around.
Okay.
Maybe because they are strangers, you don't want your children to communicate with them.
Okay.
And the children want to communicate with them. So how do you deal with that? Yeah. Okay. So yes, in communication, like I said, it's not just about the parents, it's not just about the family members. That is why the school system is there. That is why the church is there. That is why the park in Europe, we have the community park. All these things have been designed to foster socialization, to help the child grow into a responsible person, fitting into the society. So it's not just about you and your child. If you say your child should not talk to strangers because you are afraid, you want to protect the child, yes, as a parent, I appreciate your concern. Your child can still talk to strangers under your supervision. Because if you teach the child, don't talk to somebody you don't know, you are actually limiting how far the child is able to socialize. You are actually interrupting his interpersonal development, which is also very, very key in developing into a wholesome individual. That is why you don't send your child alone into the park to play. You go with them. So they are playing with other children, they are communicating with them under your watch.
Supervision. Yeah.
Under your supervision, so that if there is anything that is going wrong, as a parent, you can intervene. But you don't say no, don't talk to anybody you don't know. When you do that, you are actually limiting, repressing the communication channel that the child wants to use to express themselves. Because you never know. In school, they talk to strangers. You don't know the children from the other homes. But they interact with them. They talk to them. Do you know that there are some children, because of what this person is just asking about, when they come to school, you can tell that they have been trained not to talk to strangers. So the teacher has a little bit of difficulty interacting with children like that. So what you do as a teacher, for example, what I do is that immediately I spot a child like that, I must work on trust. The child must be able to trust me. The child must be able to win my trust. They should be able to be comfortable talking to me. So once you notice something like that, if you're a professional, you know how to deal with the child, and then you win their trust, and they are able to communicate with you. And the best way to do that, this goes to both the parents and the teachers, is use the gestures, the non-verbal communication. Smile, speak, volume, smiles. That's why the baby cannot talk, but when you smile at them, they smile back at you. You were asking if the child is not able to produce words, but there is always a feedback. You smiled and the child understood you, the child decoded and smiled back. That was the feedback. You clapped and the child turned their head towards that clap. That is a feedback. So they have understood your message and they have given you a feedback. Now, when you are talking to your child, for example, the child has done something and you want to explain to them that what they have done is wrong. You want them to see reason with you. As a teacher, this is what I do. I don't do that standing up. I kneel down to the level of the child. My head and her head or his head, we just come to the same level. If I have to squat, I will squat. We come to the same level. I take their hand into my hand. I look at them in the face. Because it's a serious matter, I am not smiling and I am not shouting. I lower my voice, I use the correct tone, and I tell them, we are in the classroom. You need to pay attention to me. If you don't listen to what I am saying, your friends will learn and will not be able to learn. Mommy will not be happy. Daddy will not be happy. Do you understand? Then they will nod. Especially when they know they have done the wrong thing. They are usually ashamed. They don't want to speak, so they will use their head to nod. Then I'll do this. And then I'll give them a smile. And then we move on. And the issue is resolved. Somebody may approach it differently.
African parents, we need to shout it into you for you to get what we are saying.
Somebody may approach it. There are some stubborn children, of course. You will do all that I have done, it will not work. They will go back and they will do the same. So you take it to the next step. The next step, I'm not going to come down to your level. I'm not going to do that negotiation with you. I will stand upright and give you that hard stare. I have a stare. When I give it to them, the whole room is quiet. My face alone, I am not saying a word, but I stare very hard into your eyes. And when you look at my face, they get it. They know this woman is serious now. I dare not play with her. I don't know what her next action will be. When you do that, you are unpredictable. When you give them that long stare, silent stare, they are afraid. What is she going to do next? And when she's quiet looking at me, let me behave myself. And it works. And there are some, they will go back and do it. So now you give them a time out. You find a lonely, quiet place somewhere, and you put them there. You take them out of the whole
comfort zone.
While they are there, immediately I engage the rest with a fun activity, and everybody is smiling, we are playing, and that person is there. You are punishing them. You are not beating them. Sometimes they will turn back and they are crying. You see that they have regretted their action. So there are so many ways that we can really communicate with our children. We can do it. And we need to make the effort to do it.
Wow.
We need to make the effort. One other thing I want to say with parents and children communicating, show interest in what your children have to say. Don't say they are children, they are speaking nonsense, they don't know what they are talking about. Pay attention to them. Show interest in what they are saying. For all you know, what they are saying is very critical. But because you are not paying attention, because you are not showing interest, when your child begins to talk to you and you don't show interest, they stop talking to you. Yes. And most parents will testify, unless you ask your child a question, they never come to you to talk to you. And that is really bad. It's a sign that you are not a good communicator. Because for me, for example, I go into the classroom, immediately they see me, because sometimes I am entering with a song. Already I have set the pace. I am entering with some music and I am already dancing. So the whole class is dancing with me. So sometimes you put yourself in their world. I always say that you have been a child before. It's very easy to go into their world than it is for them to come into your world. So go into your world. You enter the room. Great, if you don't stop them, the whole day they will tell you everything that is happening in their home, how they went for the party. The moment one person starts, the next person, Grace, and you, they will start talking. The next person, Grace, and but you don't snub them, you don't shut them off. What you do is, okay, just give me a second. Maybe I want to take their register, I want to take their names. Give me a second, okay? Then I will do that quickly and say, what did you want to say? Then I'll give them a second or 30 seconds to say something. Oh, good, that's okay, let's go on. The next time, the other person will come up and then you try to give them a few seconds. When you do that, they are very comfortable with you and they always open up to you. But when your child comes smiling because you are not in a good mood, I'm sorry, your child didn't put you in that mood. If you have fought with your wife or your husband, that child is innocent. Don't let it on the child. And this is where emotional intelligence is very important. Maybe sometime later we'll talk about emotional intelligence.
Wow.
If you are not emotionally intelligent, your children will always suffer. Somebody did something to you on the bus. You are angry from the bus. You entered the house and the whole house is on fire. Nobody in the house has done anything to you. So you should be able to, check yourself emotionally to deal with those who have hurt you and those who have not. And because we are Christians and we have the Holy Spirit, He gives us the spirit of self-control. And so we are able to easily exhibit our emotional intelligence better than those who do not have the privilege of the Holy Spirit. And I believe that according to Philippians chapter 4 verse 13, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Please, parents, anytime you are communicating to your children, let your actions match your words. Mean what you say and say what you mean. Mean what you say and say what you mean. Your child is playing with a knife. Oh, stop it! Stop it, Kofi! No, Kofi, stop it! The knife will cut you. No. The moment you see danger, let your tone, your expression, everything, stop! Put that knife down. The sound alone can take the knife from the hand. The moment they shake, the knife will drop because you are communicating that is dangerous. Next time they hear your tone like that, they associate with mommy. It's very serious. I need to check myself. All your child needs, African parents especially, is a hug, a pat on the shoulder, a cuddle in their hair. Just letting them know that you are there for them, you care for them, you love them, you appreciate them. Most of us don't do it. We have left it for the Europeans. Let them do things for them. Sometimes all the child needs is a hug. You are in the class and the child is saying, Mama, Boyo Papa, Boyo Nona. What do you do? Sometimes you have about 20 of them. The moment one starts, the other person will start. So immediately as a teacher, what I do is I grab your hand, I grab their hand, we put in some music, we dance, we smile, we jump around, everybody is smiling. You give them a hug. That particular child crying for mom, all that they need is that hug. You give them the hug and they are okay. So very soon you close, mommy will come, okay? Good. And that's fine. The same thing we can do for our children at home. Sometimes they come to you, they don't want anything, just a hug, just a kiss, just some reassurance, just some cuddling. And all these things go into our communication. Your gestures, your actions can do more than what your words can do.
Wow. Your gestures, your words can do more. I believe that as parents also, we should also not forget that we need to praise them when they do something that is okay, it's good. Praise them. Specifically mention what they have done and then you praise them. We are also urged that when they do something that is okay, mention it. Say that because you did this particular thing, that is why. And then reward them. A little toffee here. Reward them. It also encourages them to do more. Mommy has given us so much info, so much nuggets that will help us as parents, as caretakers, as caregivers, as teachers, as Sunday school teachers, everywhere you find yourself with children. I believe this will help you greatly. Mommy, I am so much honored that you gave us this opportunity for us to learn. I don't know if you have final words for us. Okay. Mommy, let me go quickly to YouTube. I'm told that we have some comments there. Sorry. Yeah, we have, because of our time, I will take it shortly. We have our Deacon Solomon answer says, parents must be careful listeners to our children. Yes. Thank you. It is coming from a parent, a big parent for that matter. He says that parents, we must be careful, a careful listener to our children. Mr. Roger James Amafi, my own daddy. He says, is physical disciplinary action, that is beating on our children, also a communication? That is, if we discipline them, is it also a communication? It is a question to us, mommy.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. The Bible declares that there's so much foolishness in the hearts of a child, and it is the rod of instruction or the rod of correction that will pluck it out. So discipline is also very important. Discipline is not necessarily beating, what we call capital punishment. It is not necessarily physically inflicting pain on the child. When the Bible talks about the rod of punishment, of course, back home we know that you cannot grow in Africa without being beaten. It will not happen. Sometimes we say that the rod is for the child. So sometimes the only language some of these children can understand is that rod, but it shouldn't be our first result. Actually, it is being discouraged all around, because there are very productive ways of disciplining your children. What they like best, you can withdraw it from them.
Yeah.
You can use the withdrawal method to withdraw the things that they like doing most. And so that way you are actually punishing them, or you take them away from the environment they are comfortable with. You don't put them in a cage, you don't lock them in the bathroom. No, that's not what I mean. But there are so many ways. You can scold them, you can rebuke them, you can actually sit them down and talk to them about what they have done, and let them acknowledge that what they have done is wrong, and let them apologize for their wrongdoing. Nobody wants to be in that position where they are saying sorry. That's why even for us adults, it's very difficult for most adults to admit and say sorry. But when we start teaching them, it is a way of disciplining them. And so, of course, discipline is also a form of communication. God says in His Word that the Son that the Father loves, He chastises. The same way, if we really want our children to grow into responsible men and women who will take over society and the kingdom of God and shine as light, then we must discipline them. But doing so, we must minimize the physical pain we inflict on them.
Parents, let's do well to minimize the physical pain. It should be our last resort. When we will try, even though it is quite difficult. I am confessing here. Yes, our mommy Tando is saying, this daughter of Zion is indeed loaded, Papa. May God increase you big time, woman of God. That goes to you, Mama Grace, from our mommy Margaret Tando. All too soon, our time is up. I don't know, mommy, would you give us your concluding remarks, or we can just okay, yeah. Then you give us your last.
Finally, befriend your children. Create a bond of friendship with them. Don't wait till they are young adults, adolescents before you want them to confide in you. You never started that with them. So now that they have even gotten friends in their schools, boyfriends, girlfriends, and all those things, you cannot now begin to win their trust. At every stage, there are two critical things at stake. I told you that at the infancy stage is where trust or mistrust is developed. If you really want to be that man, that woman that your child can talk to you about anything, be their friend. It is never too late to start. So be their friend from now on. When they begin to talk, show interest, listen, behave like them. That way they will know that I always have a shoulder to cry on. Mommy is always ready to listen. Daddy is always ready to listen. Educators, caregivers, let us also apply the knowledge we have received, and by the grace of God, we will impart our wealth, and the generation after us will do better than us. God bless you all.
God bless you too, Mommy. Thanks so much for coming to grace this session with so much info with your ministry. Thank you so much. Our hearts are filled with so much gratitude. We say we are so grateful to have you to be of a blessing to us. I thank you also, our wonderful viewers, for making time with us. I believe that we have also learned from this session. It is not too late. The video is almost over, but you can still share to somebody to be of a blessing to that person. We have learned so much. We have learned that in communication, it has a process. You need to encode, there should be a channel, decode, and then there should be a feedback. So as you begin to relearn, as we are relearning, yes, try to figure out if your communication is effective. And if you also need to adjust the way you communicate for your children to understand you better, you also need to. If you don't know what to do, we have a video on that we did about parenting skills. How to talk, what kind of a parent are you, how you deal with your children. What it has to do with you, the parent. You can go back and watch it, and then watch this one again as you put everything. As my daddy at that time will always say, a little here, a little there, and we know that we will do better. Parents, as mommy said lastly, he said you should bond with your children. You should be their friend, so that in any situation, when they come back from school, when they have mingled with their friends out there and they come, the atmosphere around you will make them talk to you. Everything that they have received from outside, that is, my husband will say, that is junk. In their house, they will pour it out, and what they will receive from you as a parent will sanitize their head, their mind, because you are there to communicate effectively with them. Thank you so much. Make a date with us the next time, and we know that you will always be of a blessing being part of this family. Mommy, thank you so much again for coming. Thank you, viewers, and see you same time. God richly